5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Please do not change channel.
From Krypton Radio, brought to you by Famous Faces and Funnies and Off the Chain with Yvonne Mason. It's the Hangin' with Web Show Radio Hour, the Internet's premier pop culture talk radio show. You're tuned in, you're logged on, and now, your host, award-winning author and journalist G.W. Pomichter. Who are you hanging with?
Hello, World Wide Web. We are the Hangin' with Web Show, and we are live in the studio right now, hanging out. But joining us on the line, we have our good friend is back from a long sabbatical.
Too long.
Robert Lupo, the Orlando Wizard, is with us.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, Robert, how are you, man?
Wow, it's been way too long, guys. We can't go that long again.
Never.
We need
Never
to talk
again.
more often.
I know, it was crazy long, wasn't it?
Since we talked, I went to DEF CON in Las Vegas. I went to Comic-Con in San Diego. I went to Disneyland's Galaxy's Edge. And then I was at Galaxy's Edge here in Orlando yesterday.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so much happening.
It's crazy out there, man. There's so much going on. It is just amazing. So we're going to break down some headlines tonight. But Lupo, as he said, he's been our guy on the scene for so much in the last month. So we're going to kind of work backwards. We were in a discussion before we went on the air. Breaking news broke yesterday. There's been feedback from it. Social media is going crazy. It looks
breaking everything.
It's breaking heart news is what they should call it. It looks like Spider-Man is off the MCU roster again.
What?
Yeah. The article that I read, articles, I should say plural, that I've
There
read.
are many, yes.
Say that talks broke down. Negotiations between these two mega corporations, Sony and Disney, broke down. And just so Kevin Feige and the MCU team will not be overseeing Spider-Man anymore, at least not at the present. Now that doesn't mean is the character from the MCU/Sony films moving forward as is, and that means the actor Tom Holland, who is killing it, by the way.
Oh, yes. Killing it so much that Spider-Man Far From Home surpassed Skyfall as the top grossing picture of all time for Sony.
That's awesome. See
Yeah.
that?
Amazing.
Over $1 billion.
Yeah.
$1 billion. Now, keep in mind, this is 1 month. America and the world is spending money like crazy this summer. This is about a month and a half after Endgame becomes the single best grossing film in movie history.
In
of eternity. It was 3 hours, but it was magnificent.
Yeah,
Yes.
It was. So Endgame comes through and shatters every box office record.
All of the records.
And then less than 2 months later, Sony comes up with Spider-Man Far From Home, and they rock through a handful of those records at the same for a single character-driven picture.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, Endgame is an ensemble piece. We've got a huge stable of stars, from Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Holland to Chris Evans and Chris Helms, all the Chris's. Everybody named Chris was in that movie. In fact, there's a few people dead on the battlefield. Their names are Chris.
I'm sure there are.
But everybody named Chris was in that movie.
It's really fair because Spider-Man was in both movies.
That's true. And so he comes along and rocks it out a month and a half later, and kills the record books too.
Yeah.
So in the wake of that, I understand Disney and Sony were back in negotiations for how to keep the character going, and Disney had some things that they wanted, and Sony didn't want to give those, and they had some things that they wanted, and so everybody walked away from the table. And so what happened? What do you think? What do you think, Robert? I mean, what's going to happen to our Tom Holland and to this Spidey universe that's been built inside the MCU?
Did you guys see that they announced the name of the next Spider-Man movie?
What? Wait, I missed that one.
See that?
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, it's Spider-Man: The Quest for More Money.
That would make sense.
Uh-huh.
That would make sense, especially because you've just lost access to the deepest pockets on planet Earth.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the thing is, the Spider-Man movies have been so bloody successful with this, with this specific actor. It's interesting because Spider-Man keeps rebooting and rebooting, and they keep rolling the dice, and they hit a 7 with this actor. He is really, in my opinion, the perfect Spider-Man. He's just enough geeky. He's just enough adventurous. What I really like about this boot of Spider-Man is that he has that wonder in his eyes, like, what am I doing? How am I going to do this? And it's like, you can see he's kind of scared, but kind of excited and very adventurous. And like all teenage boys, absolutely stupid when he goes over and bites off more than he can chew. The love interest is great because he's nervous about the love. I mean, he's sitting there fighting mega criminals, yet but it doesn't know how to ask a girl out on a date. It's so well done. And Homecoming, in my opinion, was great, absolutely great. Loved every moment of it. I liked the awkwardness between his aunt and Happy.
Yeah, I really did.
Wait, what are you guys doing here? And his uncomfortableness with that because of devotion to Stark. And all of a sudden, he's got his aunt, and he's obviously uncomfortable with it. It was really, really great. And then the ending where they just kind of threw you for a loop at the very, very end. The problem we have now is because of what's going on with negotiations, we might lose them.
Yeah, well, and this is it.
They might throw another reboot at us, and if they do, it's going to fail miserably.
I would say so too, because back in the day, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man did quite well. It really did. Good. 3 films. They're good films. The third one arguably is people's least favorite, but all in all, that's a good trilogy of films. They rebooted with Andrew Garfield, who I think did a great job with Spider-Man. He was just a little too cool to be Peter.
He was way too cool.
He was a great Spidey, not a great Peter. But when they rebooted, obviously the numbers went down. Right. I think people had come out of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man into Andrew Garfield's adaptation of Spider-Man, and I think people felt like this should have been a continuation of the first 3, not a reboot.
Yes,
telling the same story, and
that's why we like Far From Home.
And to the MCU's credit,
Homecoming. And
Sony's, when they're in partnership with each other, to their credit, Homecoming did exactly the opposite. We didn't rehash the Spidey origin story. We dove into a story having met Spidey in Civil War, and that was awesome. And then, of course, we went through Infinity War, we went through Endgame, and then we came from with Far From Home. And Far From Home just hit it out of the park and upped Spidey's game, and it was great. And then
KG.
And then, of course, you got that end credit scene that was just bam.
Yeah, that really was. I was like, I had to go someplace, and I'm like, wait, I gotta watch the end credits. And I'm sitting there, and I'm standing by the exit watching it because I just gotta run the second it's over. And I'm like, there's got to be one more thing here. There's got to be something. And then all of a sudden, I'm watching that, and I was like, oh crap.
Yeah, and wow. And there's the thing. That whole movie set Peter and Spider-Man up to be a center point, a point of revolution within the MCU, because he was essentially coming in as the heir apparent to Tony in terms of superhero status. He was sort of Tony Stark's heir apparent. Mm-hmm. And all through Far From Home, that's really what the movie hinged on, was how he handled this new adult responsibility and his grief and growing up at the same time. It was just a great mash of those things. So it does beg the question, can they all back away from the table? Is this just a really, really big, high-stakes game of chicken?
Oh, it totally is. I mean, they're both flexing their muscles, but what they don't understand is if you don't come to a compromise and if you don't figure out, both of them are making just a ton of cash.
Yeah, it's $1 billion franchise, of which box office grosses, the lion's share of the box office grosses, to be clear, goes at present to Sony Pictures. They get the lion's share of the box office. So,
Hey, say hi to Yvonne Mason.
hello, Yvonne Mason. Hello, Yvonne. We're glad you're in the chat tonight.
She is.
Thank you so much for coming by. So, $1 billion, the lion's share of that goes to Sony.
Wait a minute. I have a question.
Yeah.
Shouldn't the lion's share be referencing Disney with the Lion King out there right now? I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself.
Possibly, but I don't think so because the Lion King of all the Disney live action / CGI reboots of animation was not the one. It was not panned, but it was not beloved the way something like Beauty and the Beast was. Beauty and the Beast had people knocked their socks off.
It did it well.
They did it well.
Really well.
And Aladdin hasn't made headlines at all, which is really disappointing to me because it is mostly live action. It's less CGI, more live action. And, my problem, I think what happened to Aladdin, real quick, is that Robin Williams passed away. And Will Smith is a phenomenal actor, an amazing comedian, an incredibly talented fella. But I think everybody looks at the screen, and instead of seeing it with clear vision, we see it with nostalgia vision.
Well, also, the problem with, just to jump to Aladdin real quick, one of the biggest issues that we had with Aladdin is the fact they tried to make him Robin Williams. I mean, they were trying to approach, instead of letting him become his own genie,
they wanted to do
they tried to
an homage. And again, even when that's done well,
it totally didn't work.
And even when that's done well, even if you do it well, the audience is sometimes very unforgiving. Because I remember this, and I think it was a good story and a good movie, a well-made movie, and I went way back in the day with Superman Returns. It was a good movie. It was a well-made movie.
Yes.
But Brandon Routh largely played Christopher Reeves playing Superman and playing Clark Kent.
And he was dead
And he
on.
had to because Chris Reeves had passed by then.
Yes.
And Chris couldn't tell us it was okay to like this, so we had to do something to honor Chris's memory. But the audience recognized that it wasn't Brandon Routh coming through as the new guy. It was Brandon Routh playing Christopher Reeves.
Yes.
And
I didn't focus on the story when I saw that. I focused on him, and that's what made me enjoy it.
Yeah, and so I think at that point, even when you do that kind of homage to a great performer well, it doesn't always play well with audiences. And so big shoes are hard to fill.
I agree. Well, I mean, I love Will Smith. I'm a huge fan of his. Always thought the best of him. And in my opinion, he was the best thing about the movie Aladdin. I think he was great. The problem is Aladdin, the movie, the live action movie, just didn't work. It just didn't work. And I mean, if they didn't do the animation and Will Smith was just the genie, allowed to take the genie as his
own direction,
I think the movie would have done a little bit better because I thought he did a great job as a genie, but he's haunted by Robin Williams' memory. And on top of that, the rest of the movie, in my opinion, just didn't work. There was unnecessary songs that didn't fit the plot or fit things, and there was unnecessary things in the overall plot that I just went, you could have stuck with something that won, and then you're trying to spin it, and it's just not working.
Who's who? What's hot and what's not? 2019 saw some amazing new creative talents, and now you can peek behind the scenes at the hottest indie creative artists in this year's edition of 25 Hottest Indie Authors, Artist Advocates 2019 magazine, published by the renowned And I Thought Ladies. This is a one-of-a-kind look into the brightest rising stars in the creative universe. Get yours today at magcloud.com and at andwethought.com.
Ceci Giltenan's Highland Solution on Amazon.com. Niall McGeehan needs the Lady Catherine Ruthven's dowry to relieve his client's crushing debt, but has no intention of giving her his heart. With a husband who does not want to be married and believes all women are deceitful, Lady Catherine must forfeit everything into the bargain. Can Catherine mend Niall's cynical heart before the treachery of others destroys them both? Highland Solution by best-selling author Ceci Giltenan, available on Amazon.com.
This is Cosplay Michael with the Hangin with Flip Show. I want to tell you about my friends at Embellish Effects in Orlando, Florida. They've got makeup, costumes, and props for all of your costume needs. and the team at Embellish Effects is helpful and friendly. Embellish Effects is one of my favorite places, and I know it will be yours too. I'll see you there, or go to embellisheffects.com. And remember, cosplay is for everyone.
From authors Julie Morgan and Grayson Miller, and out of the great city of New Orleans emerges a detective tale to devour. The king of New Orleans is a demon who offers immortality for loyalty. The sheriff is a shifter with a badge who's lost his powers, and Natalia Cortez is the private dick who arrives to investigate a demonic killing. The rest is waiting to be uncovered by you. This dick is looking for a demon fuck. Pre-order on Amazon.com today.
In Terry A. Wilson's Slow Burn, Atlanta is a city straddling two worlds. Remington Montgomery is a modern dragon, the city's finest detective and most sought-after bachelor.
Day Ito was raised to reign as the Dragon Queen.
When fate steps in, these two are thrust together to reign as king and queen.
To make matters worse, Day's sister has gone missing, and the unlikely pair must find her.
The problem?
Well, it's complicated.
Can this royal couple set aside their differences and learn to work together?
Can they learn to be together?
Find out in the first of a 5-book series from author Terry A. Wilson.
Slow Burn, available on Amazon.com.
Mature and curvaceous Juliana faces the consequences of having two online lovers, the insanely jealous Aaron and the kind, sexy silver fox Bobby. To make her life more complicated, she must weather the wrath of her husband Rocco, who has discovered his suspicion and uncovers a deep, dark secret. And there are more secrets to uncover. Will these secrets come out? Can Juliana survive this tsunami of impossible situations? Will she be able to rebuild the life she once had, or will the burden of the past prove too much? Is there even a happily ever after in her future? Read what happens when you pick up your copy of With All of Me Too today from joannesbooks.com or amazon.com.
And yeah, and I think, again, and that's just an example, and to bring it full circle, if you're listening, Disney, and you're not, I know, if you're listening, Sony, guys, this is why you need the best of both worlds. This is why you play chicken, and it is...
Disney's a big chicken.
It's your viewers and it's your fans. It's that base that suffers.
Can't we all just get along?
Make your business deals. I get it. I don't want to be kumbaya, let's all get along. Make your deal, however you have to. But sooner or later, somebody's going to have to flinch in this game if the fans and the viewers are going to get products that they want. And that's when they get what they want, they spend money hand over fist, $1 billion of those dollars.
This is true.
$1 billion of those dollars.
For either franchise.
That's right. If you give them what they want. If you don't give them what they want, everybody knows that in the last decade, with the exception of big blockbuster event movies, attendance at theaters is down.
True.
The screens on our wall at home are too clear. They're too big. They're too flat. It's too easy to sit in my living room, eat my gourmet meal, and watch a movie on my 65-plus inch television, 100 inches here.
Yes.
Wait, only 65 inch?
Well, no, we have 100 inches in our living room, but
Right.
Yeah.
But you know, the average person
purpose.
is looking between 55 and 100 inches on their flat screen TV. It's way too easy to sit in your living room and watch these movies in high definition on your 1080 or 4K television set now.
Ultra high definition now. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
So
incredible.
honestly, and have you guys seen even the best movies? If you guys have seen them on a 4K TV,
Yeah.
you almost feel like you're watching a 1990s television show because the detail is so overwhelming that it's distracting. We watched on a 4K TV, we watched Black Panther.
Oh, wow.
And everything was so clear.
It was too clear.
That the distinguishing between live action and CGI and things, you could actually distinguish between them.
Yeah.
Because you were seeing it in
creepy.
higher resolution than it was shot. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, incredible. So with all of that happening, theater attendance has gone down, except for big blockbuster event movies. And for those to work, you have to give the fans and you have to give them what they want.
This is the same thing that's happening with Star Wars right now.
Yes, it is.
So, this is a perfect example. Star Wars has one of the largest fan bases in the world, bar none. I mean, it's like everybody is a fan of this, but Star Wars is Star Wars. And then Disney bought Star Wars and said, well, we're going to put out a movie every year. Fabulous, do it. But they have to be good. And instead of listening to the fans, they decided to do whatever they wanted with the property. This was a mistake.
Yeah.
This was a huge mistake because, when you start kind of going leeway on this, next thing you know, the fans are going, that's not canon. That's not Star Wars. That's not how it works. And you're dealing
fans
with a
can be
fanatical fan base. And
now
I'm
going to do this again. It's great. He brought us over to Star Wars, which is a great place to land in this category.
Star Wars land.
It is. And I say this because it's a great place to land because the theme of tonight's show live on Facebook is the business of popular culture.
Yes.
And when Star Wars launched the final trilogy of the Skywalker saga, and Disney and Lucas got together, one of the first things they did was say the extended universe is now the quote legendary universe. They're the legends. It's not part of canon anymore. Now,
and the fans won't have it.
And so I did a panel after Episode 7 came out. I did a panel at Necronomicon with Timothy Zahn and some other Star Wars writers, and we just talked about what J.J. Abrams in particular had done with Episode 7 and some of the things that he left out there dangling. One of the things we talked about was the Kylo Ren character being Ben Solo, which is an amalgamation of two characters from Timothy Zahn's work. We have young Ben Skywalker, and we have Jason Solo.
Mike Fern says you will never win the canon debate.
So it's not really a debate, though. It's done. Disney says what's canon and what's not. So, but Kylo Ren is an amalgamation of two, quote, non-canon characters. That's what he represents. He has two, and his story arc is literally, if you were to blend the Jason Solo and the Ben Solo story arcs and say, okay, cherry pick all the highlight points and make one character, that's what they did with Ben Solo. Now, J.J. Abrams intentionally left our lead character, our new young Force sensitive hero. Her identity was intentionally left unsolved.
That's right, because everybody was like, who are Rey's parents? I have to know.
Now, Rian Johnson, in fairness, went in and just said, let's obliterate this thing. Let's take care of all of this debate right now and just kill everybody. But it's still really, there's been a huge debate ever since Kylo's big revelation that Rey was, quote, no one, that he had to be lying, or at least he didn't know the truth, or he just couldn't have been telling the truth because there was more to it. And rumors have begun to surface now as to who Rey's identity might be now that JJ's back at the helm.
That's right.
And
Mike Fern also says that J.J. Abrams listens to his fans.
Yes. And so the rumor surfaced that, and here it is, ready? Mm-hmm. This was the last rumor I saw, and that somehow Rey is actually another Solo child.
Which would make sense.
Enter, what is it? It was Jason and Jada? Is that what it Jane? What was her name? Anybody remember the daughter's name?
I think it was Jada.
Jada, I think. So enter the Solo, what were twins. In this case, they're just older and younger siblings. One sibling hidden from the other. Very much, again, rhyming.
Leia,
very much rhyming with Luke and Leia being hidden from Vader. So there's a lot there for the Skywalker saga if she turns out to be a Skywalker. And this is, by the way, complete.
Why was she hidden? That's the part that doesn't make any sense to me, is why would you hide her? I understand splitting Luke and Leia because Anakin had this massive count, what do you call them? I forgot.
The midi-chlorians.
Oh, the midi-chlorians, yes. Okay.
Had the highest count of midi-chlorians in history, and was supposed to be this ultimate guy, right? So Luke being the son and Leia being, the daughter of one of the most powerful evil guys in the universe, I understand why you would split them up. That here's the thing that I want you to think about. Luke, who's the son of him, who's extremely sensitive with the Force, right? Who has it in his bloodline, who would have massive amounts of account in there, was not even remotely as adept as Rey is now, who's had no training.
And that to me, I was just saying, and that to me really does put her in. She has to be if not a Skywalker, a famous Jedi family. It has to be that because of the fact that with zero training, with zero anything, she was separated
She's
from
already reaching out, grabbing lightsabers.
Yeah, I mean, it was literally
trained to be a Jedi.
I mean, well, and you think now Luke had a lot of natural ability up front, but we didn't see like his first adventure was a very rushed adventure because it was, no one knew Star Wars was going to be what it was. It was put together like a classic adventure story. So boom, boom, boom. But he had a lot of talent up front. He was able to destroy, he was able to, close his eyes and destroy the Death Star and,
that's true.
Basically will that photon torpedo onto its target. Now, that being said,
trust in your feelings.
Rey has that same kind of untrained talent. And again, the only line that we know of that has ever had that is the Skywalker family. And so I really do believe that JJ is going to Jaina us a Rey. I believe that in the end, the story that came originally, I believe, from Timothy Zahn, that told the story of the children of our heroes from the first trilogy, is going to have a lot of pieces adapted into canon from non-canon materials. Now, of course, the names will be changed and everything else, and nobody at Disney will ever have to worry about writing Tim a check, other than the ones that are writing him for Thrawn, because he is now
That's
canon.
true.
At the same time, I really do think they're going to give the fans a little bit of what the fans want, because the second movie didn't do wonderful at the box office, and the fatigue coming out of the second movie made the second standalone film, the Solo story, not that it was a great movie, good or bad, but not enough people saw it to start with. It didn't do well at the box office. And that you can say that it doesn't do well in the fan base, because if a bunch of people go see it and they spend $700 million to go see it, and then a bunch of people go online and then tear it apart, that's one thing. But this movie just didn't hit it out of the gate. It didn't do well at the box office. Now that means
I liked it.
Yeah, so that means there was a reason other than the movie that people weren't going. And I believe that people's opinions, good or bad, about Rian Johnson's middle installment really did keep them away from the box office.
Well, Terry McIver, he said that, don't we really all think that Rey is a Sidious Emperor Palpatine clone?
That comes from Terry, I know a guy that would agree with you 100%, and that is our good friend and best-selling author, by the way, Peter Wax. Peter J. Wax sat on the show 3 years ago after episode 7 had first come out.
Yes.
When everybody else was speculating who Rey was. And Peter said to us, wouldn't it be awesome if she was a Palpatine, Emperor Palpatine's daughter, granddaughter, clone, but Palpatine? Wouldn't that be awesome? It blew my mind then. I love the idea. I don't know that they'll do it, but I do know that those people who dive into the novels and comic books and all of the extended parts of the Star Wars universe will love that idea. Because it'll give Emperor Palpatine...
doesn't explain her capabilities up front without any training. And that's I'm going back again to the first three movies now, not the first three, the second three movies, the prequels, when he explains that he was trained by Darth Plagueis, who taught him the art of being able to live beyond through the Force. So in theory, he could quite literally push his own abilities into someone else. So like a soul. Basically, in a nutshell, she may not be a clone. What she could have been is the vessel for his essence.
His essence, his power. And of course,
so in other words, he could have transferred all his knowledge and capabilities to her, and it slowly, when she reaches out and grabs a lightsaber, she doesn't know how she's doing it. It's because he already had that ability. And that's interesting.
And that does, from a filmmaking perspective or a storytelling perspective, it does set up a really interesting dynamic where Rey has an internal battle to deal with. In the first movie, her internal battle was between her calling, which is to join Han and Chewie and the gang out in space, and her desire to go home and wait for her parents. In the second movie, her internal conflict is the desire to know more about who her parents were. In the third movie, it could be the revelation that she is from or of the lineage of or gets her force sensitivity from the most evil man that's ever existed in the universe.
Wow.
And the conflict within her can be that. So it's an interesting thing. I don't know that JJ will go that way. He might keep it simple. I think when you look at it from the perspective of fan service, there are a couple of different ways that you can go, but he may choose the simpler of the two, because again, the Palpatine angle is intriguing and fascinating for all of us Star Wars fans, but it's a little more complex because you got to get into the nuts and bolts of how it happened.
Wouldn't it be like a stick in the eye if she ends up being the next Sith Lord?
It would be interesting. It would be
really interesting to have her just turn.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
The Gift from best-selling author Ceci Giltenan.
An immortal spirit offers Cassie Calloway, a modern American heiress, the opportunity to spend 60 days in another time as another person, and the free-spirited college student jumps at the chance.
In 14th century Scotland, Tavish Ranald must marry. It is his duty. Can he marry Claire Morrison when another lass holds his heart?
When Cassie awakens as Claire, her new problem is Tavish. Join Cassie and Tavish as they embark on the adventure of a lifetime.
In The Gift, best-selling author Ceci Giltenan's
Pocketwatch Chronicles on Amazon.com. From author Sherry Rensler comes the Evening Bower series, a prophecy from the lost city of Atlantis, a pairing whose union will change the future. Magical creatures, prophecy, destiny, and love collide in a new kind of romance. It's Sherry Rensler's Evening Bower series, a haunting and compelling tale pulled from humanity's lost histories. Begin the adventure with Time and Blood on Amazon.com today. Forever is only the beginning. From author J.C. Layne comes Playing in Tune. As Mitch and Jess set about putting their lives back together, each of them is dealing with their own issues. Life marches on, and Peach Buzz Studios is abuzz with fans coming and going. Mitch continues to record his new album. Brett and Jess's new label, Crash and Burn Records, is about to debut. How will the aftermath of their ordeal impact their relationship? Can their love carry them through anything? Pre-order Playing in Tune by J.C. Layne, book 3 of the Back on Track series, on Amazon today.
Alien invaders enslave Earth.
Unleashing hunters into the ruin wastes.
One young survivor struggles to elude their monsters, clinging to hope.
When he's stolen off the planet by a sarcastic Starship AI, they pit their uneasy alliance against a treacherous galaxy.
Explore a whole new verse of barbarism and betrayal.
Wonder and adventure.
In the Scion series.
By Michael J. Allen.
Beginning with Book 1, Scion Conquered Earth.
Available in print, ebook, and audio on Amazon.com.
Hello, World Wide Web. Welcome back to the Hangin' With Web Show. I'm GW Pomichter, and we are at Indie Book Fest 2019 in Orlando, Florida. Hit subscribe for us, because we have got authors from Indie Book Fest basically for the last 2 days, which is like 4 weeks for you on the internet, because we drop one interview a day. So
I've heard another rumor, too, and this is interesting. This came out about 6 months ago, and when I throw it into the mix here, you guys can all tell me in the chat room what you think, and Lupo tell me what you think. And that is that Skywalker's not actually a last name. This came out from somebody at the studio, and presumably JJ
that was
confirmed
an interesting theory.
The Skywalker in the title does not refer to a Skywalker as in Skywalker the name. It is Skywalker is an ancient term used to describe these extraordinarily force-sensitive individuals. They are Skywalkers.
Well, see, the problem with that is that you're told in the movie when you introduce Anakin, her last name was Skywalker, the mother.
Shmi,
so it's
yes.
Anakin Skywalker, and this was a virgin birth where she just became pregnant and had a thing. So it wouldn't fit because they've already established that his name was Anakin Skywalker because that was his mother's name.
And again, this is now according to the article that I read, this isn't a new tradition. It's not like a last 100 years tradition. This is an ancient tradition. So that family, Shmi's family, may have been from a long line of force-sensitive people. And again, her use of the force, we never see her use the force other than to manifest a child, presumably without a father. So
that's a hell of a force.
That's a hell of a use.
If that's the case, why was she a slave? How did she become a slave?
Well, therein lies the thing. And again, if it's an ancient history, religious sects, conquerings, etc., these things would lead, to, the emperor, the rise of the empire or the rise of the Senate, or, these things could have led the Sith themselves. There's only 2 Siths at a time, supposedly, but there's always an apprentice coming up somewhere. So,
okay, I have something interesting. Are you guys ready?
Yeah, what do you got?
So in the chat, Terry was trying to think of one of the book that touches on the Emperor clones, which is why he changed his apprentices to more powerful Force users. He said the book suggested that Sidious was going to transfer himself to Anakin Skywalker before Obi-Wan, chopped him down, and then he turned into Vader. Mm-hmm. So they think that it was called the Shadows of the Empire, but I didn't.
Shadows of the Empire. That's it.
Oh, okay. There you go. Shadows of the Empire. So there you go, Kevin. It is Shadows of the Empire.
It is that Shadows of the Empire. Yes. It does talk about the use of strong Force users for him to transfer his essence to. Again, these are techniques he learned from Darth Plagueis. There's a whole storyline that's non-canon anymore, but it's there about the character Darth Plagueis. There's a lot of things that I think JJ could do. That can he restore the old extended universe? No, we're not going to get a Mara Jade. Although I don't know that we won't get somebody that's comparable to Mara Jade. We're just not going to get a Mara Jade. But we are going to get, I think, these amalgamated characters, much the way that Ben Solo is a combination of Ben Skywalker and Jason Solo. I think it's possible that Rey is an amalgamation of characters from the extended universe. And I think that her parentage is going to play a relatively small part. Now, that is, again, the business of pop culture, guys. When one entity buys out another entity, it changes the story dynamic. When one director is shifted from one project to another project. Look, everybody was up in arms when we thought that James Gunn was off of the Guardians projects. Does everybody remember the headlines on that? When James Gunn was, fired.
Well, that was all, and from tweets from, not even recent. Mm-hmm. He was held accountable, for way back then. Oh, you did that then? And you must still be the same now. And he was like, whoa, wait a minute.
That business decision, though, had fans up in arms because we were going to get a Guardians movie that wasn't helmed by him. And
people said no.
Exactly. Guardians was a phenomenal picture. It is arguable that 10 years earlier, you could not have done a Guardians of the Galaxy movie for the big screen. It would have been seen as ridiculous. It would have been seen as campy. It would have been, there's no way to do it. And, going into space after doing the first couple superhero movies take place on Earth, and all of the powers and all of that are all scientifically based. Lab accidents, and Tony Stark builds his suit, and all of these are science based. Guardians of the Galaxy is space magic.
Yes. Pure fun space magic.
As much as I think it's a good movie on its own, the first Thor movie and the second Thor movie, good movies on their own, but not good superhero movies. And the reason for that was because they just didn't fit in the universe they were supposed to occupy. It wasn't until Ragnarok when they figured out if they inject it with humor and they make it tongue-in-cheek and they play on the fact that they know they're dealing with space magic, then you can have enough fun to suspend your disbelief and get into the story. And Guardians did that from the very beginning. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, James Gunn brought it powerhouse to it.
That's it. Well, and it's funny that the Infernal Being would mention that everything was so serious, and that's why Guardians worked, because it did offer that. Humor. You know what else made it work? The soundtrack.
Oh, yeah. The music of Guardians 1, the humor it injected into the franchise made us go out into space where, we have people floating around in space. Look, the internet lost its mind when Leia woke up in a vacuum of space.
Yes.
And this is a fantasy universe, by definition. Star Wars is a What are you doing? What did you do? Oh, who's typing?
I think
I'm typing. Sorry, I was
typing.
Okay. Your mic was
person.
coming through, that's all. So, anyway, people lost their mind. People lost their mind when Leia opened her eyes in the vacuum of space.
Yes.
Nobody flinched when it happened to Star-Lord.
That was a problem. That was a problem for a lot of people because it wasn't just it's the Force. It was a level of disbelief because that's not what happens.
Yeah, I would have almost seen that you could bring her back.
No, you wouldn't hear explosions. You wouldn't hear laser blasts. You just don't hear it. It's the vacuum. But, we have to have that level of things. But, it's funny because talking to people about that movie when I, doing the movie reviews, a lot of them said that was the part where they were pulled out of the movie.
Yeah, and it was. And so, but nobody had a problem when Star-Lord did it because it's space magic. We get it. And so, but why?
Well,
why?
and he's half a.
Yeah. Well, half an Eternal. Yeah.
Eternal. Thank you.
We get that now, but we only buy into that, I think, because they entertained the shit out of us while we were in that theater.
Yes.
Yeah.
The music, the humor, everything. So now later on, when Thor Ragnarok comes out, it hits it out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you have Thor, a beloved character from the Avengers movies, if not from his own. And all the space magic stuff that came out of the Thor movie and the Thor Dark World movie is now tempered with the humor of this buddy cop, journey through space. And it just makes the whole thing easier to swallow. And again, soundtrack again, that musical soundtrack. It didn't take the topic so seriously. Because save the serious for when somebody is doing technobabble in an Iron Man movie, trying to explain to you how an arc reactor works. Save that, and give us that great humor that we got in Guardians. We got that in Thor. It knocked it out of the park. But James Gunn is now back. Business decision puts Guardians 3 back on the map.
That's true, but
we're not scared anymore.
Nobody's sure if it's going to be the Asgardians in space because I've heard a rumor that Thor is not going to appear in that.
No, he's not. That's not a rumor. That's actually they did. Okay,
because I was gonna say that makes me so sad.
It comes out in a different part of the MCU. We will see our MCU characters as they pass their collective torches onto their next folks. But again, these are a lot of these decisions are made creatively. Some are made for business reasons. I mean, let's face it. Chris Evans' contract was up. He's young. He could get away with Cap for a little while longer, but he had a perfect opportunity to let Cap out and to let Chris go and live his life.
I will miss his muscles.
Every woman on Earth will miss his muscles.
Yes. Oh, by the way, I just want to tell Kevin Daniel, Star-Lord did have the force field, but when he was out into space, he put it on Gamora.
That's
to
right.
save her. So
Gamora.
He was without it for a little while, and then they sucked him into the ship.
Yeah. So we let these things happen. Again, we can suspend our disbelief. We can,
Well, in the Star Wars universe, we know that cannot exist.
Why? Because it's fantasy.
Remember that the fan base for Guardians of the Galaxy is nowhere near the fan base for Star Wars.
Yeah.
So Star Wars is fanatical. If you look back at the history of Guardians of the Galaxy, the comic book didn't do very well. It's a very obscure comic book in comparison to other comic books that were made into movies. So a lot of people had never even heard of Guardians of the Galaxies before. And there was a lot of things in there that people were just like completely, dumbfounded about. So it's easier to suspend disbelief in something you know nothing about because now it's just
yeah. Well, and
Star Wars fans are like, it's got to be this, it's got to be that, and that's how it is.
Yeah, and I mean we've had 40 years to digest Star Wars content.
Oh God!
Oh yeah!
Really, 40 years? Really?
What's that?
Oh my God! I mean,
yeah.
I went and saw the first Star Wars movie.
87, 97, 07, 17, 40 plus years.
I don't
40
no,
plus.
No, it was 20 years ago, right?
20. Yeah, as far as we're concerned, it's we're gonna delete 20 just for fun.
Do you notice how I stayed quiet?
Yeah. But 77, 87, 97, 87, 97, 07, 17. That's 40 plus. So 40 plus years ago to digest all of those movies, all of those comic books, all of those
it was a good thing
novels.
I was putting suspended animation for 20 years. So.
Yeah, it is amazing.
The Right of Wands. One boy, one right. And a world of deadly secrets that could change the course of history forever. It's time for The Right of Wands by Mackenzie Floor. When a horrible fate reveals itself during the Right of Wands ceremony, Myrda must find a way to change his destiny. Forbidden from revealing the future, he is granted a wand and magical powers in order to save himself and those he loves. But Myrda is not the only one with secrets. The Right of Wands by Mackenzie Floor, available on Amazon.com now.
At XavierDominic'sManifestThyWill.com. Do you crave solutions to your everyday problems? Get rich, find love, and become happy. Xavier Dominic, master of the dark arts, may have the powers you need to prevail. Don't give up because other spellcasters have failed you. At XavierDominic'sManifestThyWill.com. Life does not have to be as hard as you see it. Xavier, an astrologist and psychic, carries out rituals and casts spells conscientiously, and he has the power to prevail in situations deemed impossible by other spellcasters. At ManifestThyWill.com, see for yourself the difference real magic can make. Go to ManifestThyWill.com today.
Now on Amazon.com. War Calls, Love Cries, a Civil War novel by Mark Barie. Isaac Wells is an innocent farm boy living in upstate New York. His dreams are shattered by a treacherous brother and the onset of a devastating civil war. War Calls and Love Cries is a fast-moving historical narrative. It is an emotional roller coaster ride and a riveting must-read book that you will think about and talk about for a long time to come. War Calls and Love Cries is the kind of book you will cherish for a lifetime. On Amazon.com today.
Eye of the Eagle by Sharon Bookbinder.
Shapeshifter Burt Blackfeather never plans to get seriously involved with another woman in this lifetime. So what if she's beautiful? So what if she gives him a jolt when she shakes his hand?
Phoebe Wagner, an empath with psychometric abilities, gets more than she bargained for with Burt. So what if he's hot? She doesn't need to add his secrets to her own.
When Burt's niece goes missing from a Hotel Lavelle, he and Phoebe decide to go to Montana to find her.
Can two hard-headed people share their darkest secrets in order to work together? It may be the only way to save a child and their own hearts.
Eye of the Eagle on Amazon.com today. Speaking of the business of pop culture, that's how it affects in the movie theater. But pop culture reaches way outside of the movie theater nowadays into our daily lives on so many levels, into our vacationing lives.
Well, this is true.
It's our daily grind. We go to conventions and conferences and places to meet our artists. So, but Lupo's been doing some traveling for us this summer. So let's start a month ago when you headed out from the great state of Florida to San Diego Comic-Con, brother. How was that?
Crazy.
Crazy.
Wow. All right. So, first of all, I'd like to personally thank you both for sending me there with passes. That was amazing. And
our pleasure.
I did do a video on that. I've actually got the basics of the video finished, but I have to trim it down because it's over an hour long.
Wow.
I'm actually working on it currently, and it will be up, I'm hoping, soon. And you guys are mentioned in there. Comic-Con, as always, is amazing. And I tell people, if you're going to go to Comic-Con, you have to go to the one in San Diego. That was the original. And this was 50 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. This is a big year.
50th anniversary. And I remember working Comic-Con years ago, and it was nowhere near as massive as it is now. The only issue I have with Comic-Con is that you get nickeled and dimed for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's massive crowds, massive long lines, and if you want to go to specific events, they'll charge you for it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that being said, it is the place to go if you're a fan of entertainment. All the major movie studios are there, like Warner Brothers is there. In fact, I was supposed to get a private tour of Warner Brothers, but the head of security who was supposed to give me the tour was at Comic-Con. So
that's
hung
awesome.
out with him a little bit.
That is awesome.
Time Warner's there, Warner Brothers. Sony was there. There was a massive booth for Star Wars that was there. So it's really amazing. And then you have like the artist row, and it's one of the largest artist rows I've seen at any convention. It's if you've ever been to MegaCon, it's not just MegaCon on steroids. It's MegaCon on steroids and then cloned 100 times.
Yeah, it is.
Our
trip to San Diego was amazing, and we always love it. I'm glad we got to send you out this year for the 50th anniversary because it's a big deal. I mean, this has gone a long way. Pop culture. We were subculture once. As popular culture today,
not
people
anymore.
who are into science fiction, fantasy, comic books, popular fiction. Pulp fiction.
That was nice.
Of old, yeah. We were subculture. We were in a tiny little ballroom in a hotel.
All right.
And relegated kind of to the back, and everybody walking through the hotel room would look and go, what are those crazy people doing here?
Oh, and, that's actually something interesting. I didn't see a lot of costumes this year.
Really?
I would normally at Comic-Con, it's like mass amounts of costumes and then, a handful of people, in straights, right? And it was completely reversed. I would say for every 20 people in normal clothing, I saw maybe one costume.
Wow.
And in some cases, it was like 50 people to one costume.
Wow. Well, and again,
blew me away.
Different communities. Yeah. There's different communities that thrive in different locations. Now, from what I understand, and we're headed ourselves, next weekend to Atlanta for Dragon Con, which is, if nothing else, the East Coast, or at least the eastern half of the country's largest, convention.
That is true. It's funny that
in
you brought up
downtown Atlanta. Yeah.
Yeah. Guess who just popped in the room?
Who?
Our awesome friend, Mark B. Lee.
Awesome. Well,
so say hi to Mark.
Hey, Mark.
That's right. Mark, thanks for coming in, man. Thanks for hanging out. We were just talking about next weekend, Dragon Con. We are looking forward to. We have got the app loaded up. Sage has been busy friend requesting all of our friends.
Those friend codes are driving me crazy.
And we're learning the schedule for Dragon Con for next weekend. We're talking to Lupo here about his trip to San Diego, which was awesome. Lupo, best and worst. Top highlighted moment and worst moment.
At San Diego.
At Comic-Con?
At Comic-Con, yeah.
Best moment is going to sound strange. It's the disability section of Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm.
So just a quick one. If you have any type of disability or if you have crowd anxiety or anything like that, they were the most accommodating I have ever seen at any convention, and they have like private areas. So if you're being overwhelmed by crowds, they have like a little quiet, area for you to go there and calm down and relax. Very helpful.
Awesome.
Very amazing.
Awesome. Yeah.
First thing I ran into was I felt that there was a level of disorganization when it came to crowd control.
It is. I will say that convention is, it's overwhelming to start with, but because of the sheer scope of it and how
so
far
expansive.
downtown it goes,
yeah.
It really does. It extends 5-6 blocks out in every direction.
Every
little bar.
Right. There's like they take over parks and blocks.
Yeah.
Prime had
Yeah.
a whole block that was dedicated to new shows coming out. It was like 3 blocks away from the convention center.
Yeah, it was huge.
Wow.
But because of that scope, it does make it a different kind of beast to maneuver. When you grow that large into a community, you rely oftentimes on the city or the town or whatever to help you out, and that help becomes more and more difficult to get when you take over so much of the city. The whole old downtown area is just...
It's all Comic-Con.
It's all Comic-Con.
Yeah.
So it becomes harder.
The next several years, they've already rented out that area all downtown for the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's just an insane amount of stuff. So from Comic-Con, though, it's been a month, dude. You've been traveling extensively.
Oh,
and you recently, I understand, just went to our own Florida Star Wars
Galaxy's Edge.
Galaxy's Edge. Now, we talked to you before on the air about your trip to Disneyland's Galaxy's Edge. Now I went
back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so when I went to Comic-Con, I actually spent one day at Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland, the whole day inside the land.
Wow.
So, and then yesterday, I went and filmed the differences and talked about the differences between the two lands. There are significant differences. So I was in the passport preview yesterday.
Okay, so what are the big standout differences that if somebody's coming from out west, having seen that one and they're going to go to ours here in Orlando, what are some of the things they're going to notice right away that are different?
I just want to say it's cool that he's been to both because I don't think a lot of people can say that, except for the wizard.
That's why he's the wizard, Dr. Wizard now.
Yes.
Dr. Wizard.
Dr. Wizard.
That's right. It's now Dr. Wizard. So I won't tell you everything because then people won't watch my video, which I'm working on currently.
Oh, yes, they will.
I will tell you one thing that really shocked me. Disneyland raised their prices. So currently, the premium pass at Disneyland is several $100s more than the premier pass here in Orlando. And we have more parks, and we have the water slides and all that. And they have 2 parks. So theirs is around $1,200, and ours is around, I think, $800 or $900 or something like that. Either way, it's very expensive. Here's the biggest difference, and it made me mad. The prices for merchandise here are higher than they are at Disneyland for the exact same thing. Okay. An example, the Kyber crystals at Disneyland, they're $12.95. Here, they're $14.95. Some of the root things are the same. So the price of build your own lightsaber is the same. Build your own droid, the same. And the prices for the personality chips are the same, and many of the add-ons for the droids are the same. But the blue and green milk are a few dollars more. There were $7.95. No, it's maybe about a buck more. So blue and green milk is like $1 more than it is at Disneyland. Huh. And other things, like, I don't know, I think they're still trying to figure things out here. Like, so if you go to an amusement park and you buy a collector's mug, right, you can get refills usually that same day for a couple of dollars more. So if I buy a collector's mug for $17, the rest of the day I should be able to, I refill for like $5 or something like that, right? Well, for the milk here, blue and green milk, they have a souvenir mug, and it's pretty large, and it's awesome, and it lights up. And at Disneyland, it's $17.95. Here was $24.95, and no refills. And I'm like, why are we gouging your customers here? And that really kind of perturbed me. A lot of things that are actually just several dollars cheaper over at Disneyland. The food is about the same prices. Wow. But the other biggest difference is at Disneyland, there's only one place to buy alcohol, and that's Olga's Cantina. Here, you can get alcohol at Olga's. You could get alcohol in your blue and green milk. It's rum or tequila. And in the Docking Bay 7 restaurant, you can also get alcohol.
Oh, wow.
And then all the rest, you have to come and watch my video.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So from Galaxy's Edge to San Diego Comic-Con, what other adventures have you been on this month, Robert?
Well, I went to DEF CON over in Las Vegas, which is, if you don't know, it's one of the world's largest hacking conventions, computer hacking conventions. And it's always around the end of July in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Well, you have to have a hackers convention. Go ahead. You have to have a hackers convention in Las Vegas because everyone knows what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. You can't talk hacking secrets.
No, it doesn't.
You can't talk about hacking secrets out in other places because everybody will find out about your hacking secrets.
That's also very true. I used to lecture at DEF CON years and years ago, and we have conventions here on the East Coast, like Hope up in New York City and so forth. A lot of really great conventions, but that's one of the biggest ones there. When I started going at DEF CON, it was $50 to get in, and now it's over $300. Pretty cool. But I earned my black badge at DEF CON 10, which means once you earn a black badge, you never have to pay for DEF CON again. You have free DEF CON for the rest of your life. And we're at DEF CON 27 now, I think we just did.
That's awesome. Did you hack your way into a black badge, or can we not tell that online? Because that would just be ironic.
Well, I'm one of the first people to social engineer myself into DEF CON for a free pass. My first DEF CON. I've only paid for one DEF CON in all the years I went because I either was lecturing at DEF CON, and I think the only DEF CON I paid for was DEF CON 10, and that's when I earned my black badge. So I never had to pay for DEF CON again.
That is awesome, man. So DEF CON, Comic-Con, Galaxy's Edge, it has been an adventurous month for you, Lupo. So
yes, it has.
All right. Well, guys, we've been talking this whole hour about popular culture and popular imagination and the things going on. We're going to have to wrap it up here.
And,
yes.
And don't forget to go on YouTube and check out the new video about Galaxy's Edge.
That is right, guys. We've been hanging on the line all hour long with our good friend Robert Lupo, the Orlando Wizard. Check out the Orlando Wizard on Facebook. Check out the Orlando Wizard on YouTube. Then check out the Hangin' With Web Show on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of the social media places. We're there. Check out some of our fantastic artists, authors, filmmakers, creative minds of all kinds. Guys, thank you for spending an hour with us tonight. We will talk to you next week. Thank you for logging on. Thank you for tuning in. Come on back later and see who we're hanging with next.